They're a little pricey, but you turn that on, you can move a lot of water.
Kidding.
Sorry, I'm cutting up like half the
Oh,
neighborhood.
we found that original report for Park Road.
Nice. Great. We need to
It's
get
around here somewhere.
get it scanned in. Aloha.
I'm a little stressed because this is the first time me setting this all up by myself. And I'm having trouble with this one iPad.
Yeah, sometimes you have to walk the iPad down the hall to connect to the internet and then slowly walk it back.
I think the audio one's working. You're talking about yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the audio one that you gotta walk down the hall.
Okay.
And so mine,
Yeah, there's
swipe on the iPad to find the option for mirroring the TVs.
okay. So yeah, book edition's on the.
Hello.
It's on there for.
So, you know,
I forget. I got that one up, but I forget
See if we have.
open the agenda. So apparently I need to open the agenda here. So I must need to go into this one as well. Do you have Christy's phone number? Call her. That would be wonderful. Because I'm starting to get really stressed and I'm sweating through this jacket already.
We don't have to. I mean, this isn't. You know, we can flex a couple. See if we have an overview of 68.
And I'm supposed to be doing something.
do you mind helping out for a second? Okay. I'm gonna let you talk to Maureen. Reading this.
Operating this room is the one part of the city's technology systems that I've never
Oh,
been able to
okay.
get my head around.
I'm freaking out. I've got the
Yeah.
volume iPad on. I've got the recorder on, but the iPad, my iPad,
All right.
I forget what I'm supposed to look at there. Okay, so what do I do on it? Justice.
Morning.
Yes, I've got a justice building.
Hi.
Okay.
Share, I guess they're short.
Yes, it. Today's the 8th. Okay, I think it's because I've got on my laptop, I've brought up today's meeting and I hit autofill. But I've done nothing else there and this meeting is not showing up on the iPad.
What is that one?
Oh, okay.
Did you get one? Oh, that's. I got it.
You got an extra?
Today's the 8th, and
That's what I said.
Okay, cool.
oh,
Actually,
today's the
I saw
2nd.
it from
Okay,
Brian.
it says,
That's 20.
okay,
See a shadow. That means you have
okay, we're in 22, that's the problem.
only 40%. Right, 40%.
It's wrapped. It stopped.
Exactly right.
It's working through.
No, I went clear through 22, 23's not showing up.
Okay, what? Go up to change your meeting.
Ah. Rob's on it. He's getting it.
Really, we used to, like,
Oh, wait.
a long program changes. They would do it.
Here.
There it is.
No, it's,
Yeah, Rob's got it.
alright, so now we have the agenda packet up. Now we just need to screen.
Really?
Oh, you're gonna get some more.
Yeah. Council chambers.
Slide that down.
And council chambers.
There we are.
Okay, and what do I need to do on the laptop? Oh, okay, so I don't need to do anything except have it on. I remember you talking that.
Almost there.
Mute my volume. Okay, it's muted. Yes. Oh, she's talking about the wind recorder so that I can record.
I'll call you back. I can't do it. Alright, I'll just call you back.
Laptop. Really? Video camera.
Minute 14.
We're in the meeting.
Open the minutes maker. Video camera.
Top is not reflect video on the side of the screen. Here's the thing, I think that has to do, we're not doing that anymore because.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yes.
Okay.
So now you just need to.
What's there over here?
Now we just need to go. Now I need to figure out how selecting
Phase 3.
Now I know I can hit this over here and it'll work.
That number. Use it on that
It
sheet.
said to hit record.
So I don't think that we have to do anything with the video because that taken care of at the back. Separate system now.
Okay,
Ready? Alright,
so he's ready.
alright. I think we'll be there.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Alright.
We'll try it. We'll have it on there. We'll have it recorded.
Guys, water.
Okay.
Alright. Yeah,
It's on.
we may need to turn that down.
Test.
Test.
Thank you.
All right. We all ready to go?
Hello? Well,
I think we are. I'll call the February 2nd, 2023 Utility Commission meeting to order at 8:34. Maureen, if you can call the roll.
Mr. Ball,
Present.
Mr. Zick,
Here.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Present?
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Some.
Excellent. First order of business, are there any changes or amendments to, I guess it's the same thing, to the Utility Commission meeting minutes of January 5th? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the January 5th minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved. It didn't come through with the packet, but I did pass out the January adjustment journal. Looks like just normal non-payment fees and bulk water and septic fees. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor of approving the January adjustment journal, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. First, and I think, no, actually, first order of business, and I may ask Brad to talk about this a little bit. In reviewing the processes for the billing office, Brad identified that they are charging vacation rates or vacancy rates kind of opposite of what the current legislation dictates. And he's gonna, can you explain to us kind of why we want to maybe modify that legislation?
Yeah, so basically, when somebody requests to be put in vacation, we'll turn their water off and disable their service. We charge a $75 fee for that task. The problem is that the way legislation is written, to turn their service back on is when they get charged their $75. So that creates an issue with people that are selling their property. So if they put the property on their vacation status and then they sell it, the new owner is then the one that has to pay that $75 fee. There's a lot of complaints about that because they're also paying to start the service up. So we believe it's more important for the person that's putting that service in pause mode that they pay the $75 ahead of time before we do the order. That way the new owner isn't stuck with that situation.
And how does the legislation, what does the code say now?
Currently, the legislation says that the fee is due before we turn the water back on. So we used to practice where we would charge it ahead of time, but Tom wanted to update that to match what the legislation was saying. So we used to practice it the other way. We've just recently changed it, which has created a lot of complaints, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone is transferring a property, they can transfer it without they don't have to have the water turned off to transfer property.
Correct. Yeah, it's not a requirement.
So would you say how most of the time someone sells a house, how would they do it?
Most of the time, it just becomes a transfer of the account. If water never gets shut off, typically what it ends up being is somebody has the house empty, vacant. They're doing some remodeling or something of that nature. So they have us disable the service, which keeps them from having a minimum bill.
Yep.
So if it's going to be off for a long term, that's about the only time that situation comes up.
So it's not a frequent thing, but we
Correct.
you guys did sort of an audit and realized we were doing it in the wrong order.
Correct.
Any thoughts on whether we should charge the vacation rate at the beginning of the end? This would, if we do a motion, it would be a recommendation to city council for the ordinance. So, any opinions? I know Brad obviously thinks it makes more sense that way.
It's just more understandable, I think, for the customers. The customers, it's difficult understanding. I bought a new house and somebody else had the service done. They made the decision and then I'm stuck paying for it. I think it's kind of the attitude that you get from somebody, which is understandable.
In light of that's how the city used to do it, and it makes sense,
Mhm.
I'd make a recommendation to the city council that charges the person requesting each other $75.
I will second that motion.
Any more discussion on this? Why don't you call the roll there, Maureen?
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Zook,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll put together legislation or rework that legislation for council. Okay, Clintonville Phase 3.
All right. Make a note here. All right, Clintonville Phase 3. So, just to review, this is a multi-phase project. We have completed 2 of the phases. The priority purpose of the project is our sewage lift station that we've inherited from the Clinton Township sewer and water district is perhaps undersized, but it's also receiving an inordinate amount of stormwater. So in heavy rain events, it habitually overflows. I think I'm using the EPA's term correctly. And after 20 years of analysis and review, the EPA has determined that it is a violation, and stopping this habitual overflow is a condition of our permit for our wastewater plant and system. We have done, like I said, 2 phases, and then we've continued to monitor. Mr. Reinhardt, we were able to get into the statistics of the pump station, and after phase 2 and phase 1 were completed, we are still seeing overflows in heavy rain events. Also, with the field observation, phase 3 is specifically the section that is Grange Avenue. In our field observations, we were seeing more than a half full sewer on Grange during heavy rain events, and when it's not raining, obviously it's substantially lower flow. So we don't know that phase 3 will complete the project. There is still the sewer main on Clinton Road that is in the same aged condition with the clay laterals. So our proposal today is to make a motion to recommend this project to City Council for immediate bid and award. Part of that is the EPA deadline for completion of this is September 1st, 2023, for the elimination of habitual overflows at the pump station. Even with this, we're not sure we can meet that deadline, but we know this is a strong contributory to that. The other part of this project as it sits now is a little over $400,000. We are, from the original plan, we're going to suggest that we add water line replacement to this phase, because we will basically end up removing the entire road to install the new sanitary system and a storm drain. At this point, Grange has one storm drain that is non-functional. Several people have asked about the situation around I think 12 and 13. There's been a ponding area for decades. So this would put storm drains in those areas, because right now that water is eventually getting in the sanitary sewer. It's not really draining anywhere else. So that will help improve the longevity, but while we're there, we also want to add the water line, because we'll be basically removing everything that has to do with the public street and replacing it. On the phase 2, we did not do that, and on Pearl Avenue, the water line broke 3 days after we paved the road. So the proposal would be water line for all of Clinton, and then we would go down Mansfield to Fairgrounds with the water line replacement.
I would second.
All right.
Great.
Got a motion for recommending Clintonville Phase 3. Discussion on the project. Brian explained it, but
And we can, I believe we asked for a committee meeting for the next, is that correct?
Yes.
So Emily will put together a nice presentation. This project is still in the running for what we used to call House Bill 168. What's the new name?
Water and wastewater infrastructure bill. I don't know if everyone's updated, but we applied for it last year for 7 projects, and we got an announcement maybe 3 weeks ago that they have another round of funding. So we just have to update our application by Thursday. And funds. Clintonville Phase 3.
Yep. And I think,
surprise funding that we got told about, so that's exciting.
yeah, last year we got 0 out of 7, but
Yeah.
with the promise that we were still, if we were in the initial run, we would still be eligible. I think this is good, because we asked for funding for all of the Clintonville phases, and now 1 and 2 are completed. and we're gonna be able to show some progress on our own, as we update this grant request. So, other than that request, this is a self-funded project. It's an EPA mandate, but we don't have any outside funds. So if we get this would help a lot. Good work, Emily.
And if I recall, this is pretty high on the list, so it's probably been included in our budget request for this year. Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's number 3 on the stormwater list, and then it's pretty high on everything else. So
Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Ball?
yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right. Motion is approved. Stump in Northview, next item of business.
All right. I guess maybe we'll start with the motion and then I can separate it. So
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to move the Stump in Northview Community Development Block Grant Project to a recommendation for City Council for immediate bid and award.
I'll second.
All right. Motion is second. Let's discuss this project.
Great. Okay, so the project, trying to think. So if we go all the way back in time to the Clinton Sewer and Water District, they had started the design of this effort for it's Stump Northview and a section of North Sandusky Street, but we didn't want to name it that long. So they had started the design for a sanitary extension for this area. You have small lots with septic tanks, clay soils, not a good combination. At that point, the Clinton Sewer and Water District was kind of, I don't know what the right word is, running out of steam, running out of funds, so the project was tabled and never completed. As we were doing work in the area, noticed quite a bit of raw or partially treated sewage coming down the state road and other township roads. Did some investigating and we were successful. We got one house hooked up, but the other ones were not close, not easy to hook up. And so we went back and we do typically an annual coordination meeting with Clinton Township. We were able to find the original plans, dusted those off. Plans to us didn't make sense because they were going to be adding a lift station basically to pick up the one house, and then the whole system would have been pumped. We have enough trouble with the lift stations we have right now. I'll look at our director here. So we got, as we were designing the road project that is completed, we worked with GPD to design a sanitary project. We had the water line was in failure under the State Route 13 North Sandusky. We knew it had to be replaced before, so we packaged a utility project. As we went through trying to figure out how to pay for the project, we realized the area was qualified for low to moderate income. That's when we pushed the CDBG button, and through that application process, which taken, I don't know, almost a year, maybe partly year and a half, we have been approved. We are fully funded for construction for the project, and also looking at our budget and how to pay for it. It's over $1 million project, so we also put in a Iowa Public Works Commission grant, 100% grant, no loan. That project has scored in the top tier of the preliminary scoring, and the official vote by the district will be, I think, the 9th or 10th of this month. So project is going very well in the grant, and this would be getting it out to bid so we can get materials and get the construction completed. This would bring us approximately 19 new wastewater customers and would eliminate not all the septic tanks are complete failure, but it would eliminate 19 septic tanks. The nice thing about the program, the folks that income qualify will have their tap fees, and we will actually be able to build the connection up to their house. So that's where a lot of the extra legwork has come in on the grant, is to get each person qualified so they're not overly burdened by the transition from septic to public sewer. But as a major health situation, we have a letter of support from Knox Public Health. They have basically looked at every septic tank and given us a report on the condition of each one, and most of them are in poor or non-functional condition. Questions?
I don't think I have any questions. Well, I guess I do have one. It sounds like if we get the OPWC funding, it's fully funded, or is there still a cost share on our part?
No, there's still a cost share. So the cost share, let me see if I can find the right page here. Clinton Township is kicking in funding for, they're gonna fund some of the road repair. And then we have, our cost share will be in the water. So the wastewater is fully funded up to about 50,000. I think we have about 50,000 in wastewater. And then our cost for water is about 250,000.
Okay.
Clinton Township, yeah, their approximate number, paving prices change every day. Their share of it will be about 65,000.
That's from their ARPA funding?
That's just their general asphalt.
General fund, okay.
What we asked them to do is just pause their regular chip and seal program and save the money. And then instead of chipping and seal it, they'll kick in some top coat asphalt. So when we finish, we'll try to put a whole new coat of asphalt instead of just repairing the trenches. Make a nicer product.
Good. Any more discussion? We have the motion in the second, so call the roll to recommend Stumpin Northview.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
And now on to Buckeye Edition.
Right, I'll start with the motion. We make a motion to recommend to City Council the Buckeye Edition CDBG waterline project be sent for bid and award expeditiously.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All right, fill us in on this one.
Okay.
Although I think we've all heard of it.
Yeah, this actually is an older project. Ever since I've worked here, we've had people about August come to City Hall desperately requesting water in this neighborhood. They are in a gravel formation that on a regular basis those wells go dry, and also on a regular basis there's bacteria that get into the wells and other things that make it undrinkable, sometimes unusable. We have a transmission main in the area, but we have not, it only goes through the outside of the neighborhood. It doesn't cover the whole area. So this was our city contract with Clinton Sewer and Water District. This is like phase 1A of the expansion plan that was signed, I think, in 2005. So this project's been, I guess, requested for quite a long time. Again, we had the health department partner with us. They went through, people bring their water in to be tested, and they were able to collect those results. To get a CDBG project, you have to demonstrate a immediate need for public health. It's not just a nice to have, or it's nice to have new customers. There is a public health situation that was demonstrated. This project is also approved for construction. The county commissioners have looked at this project as a priority countywide. So this is actually their community development block grant project. So they are the lead on the project. Also, the township sees this as a public health situation. So they're putting in, I think, I'll look at Emily, about 70-some thousand of ARPA money. They've also applied successfully at this point for a Ohio Public Works grant. So the project in total is about 1.4 million, and then our share is about 650,000. And as we restacked projects, originally we had put this project in 25. but we moved the Mansfield Avenue water line, and we swapped this one forward at 24. Is how it sits in the budget. Questions?
If I recall, over the years, there have been a lot of really weird hookups in that area. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of over 100-foot long connections. We've had some really desperate people, and folks have given permission to run lines through their backyards, and we have a meter on one street, and the house is almost a half a block away. It's we over the years, different folks have done everything they can to get people water, but sometimes they're just too far away, and it's really difficult to respond in a couple weeks to do a project this large. So it is needed. There's from our area development standpoint, there's a lot of vacant lots that people are interested in, but as far as we can tell, talking to different folks, it doesn't matter how deep you drill a well, you're not going to get good water. But most of the wells are 45 feet, and they have water all but about 1 month a year.
No, I hope the city of council approves it quickly. Time for the project to get going, because I've lived in the county since '94, so I followed this project. And I know people that live in that neighborhood, but the fact that it's a multi, it's a county priority. So you've got multiple county government organizations that view it as a priority that needs to get done. Probably most all the people that live in that, the city's already currently collecting probably payroll taxes, at least from work and employment. And it's a benefit to the city and the community, particularly the near Mount Vernon. So I think it's a great project.
Also has same thing from low to moderate. Their apps.
Yep. And it would also, I think, include the service line to the house. So,
Yes.
so people that income qualify will they'll have a very low burden of getting switched over. And I believe that it was requested that we not charge service availability fees. I think that was a Mike Hillier request. So we can, as we draft the legislation, we can put that in the project authorization to exclude those, if that's the wish of city council. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Cause again, it's, just for the general public and everyone, for sanitary projects, Knox Public Health can order people to connect to public sewer, but there are no entities that can order someone to connect to public water. So it is totally up to them. Again, once the project's closed, I don't believe they'll be able to get their fees and their service paid for. So if they qualify, we would encourage people to take that opportunity, because once the federal funds once the federal project's closed, there's no way to go back and get that again. But we'll work on an education campaign. But the other thing someone can do is they could take the benefit of the federal funds, get connected, and they could put their service on vacation if they didn't immediately want to switch over to city water, or didn't have the means to abandon their well or whatever. So make a note, we'll include that in the legislation drafting, that it's exempt from service availability.
We'll be updating this stuff.
Yeah. So this is,
We'll see.
yeah, so there's a good chance that we're hoping that one of these projects, where our cost share would be reduced by the House Bill 168, take two.
Take 3.
Or take 3 or take
Yeah.
4, we're not sure. So we're excited about the program, and I think we have a really strong, portfolio of applications.
Any more discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. last item of old business, but I'm gonna add an item, regarding billing office staffing at the end. I wanna talk about that, but,
You wanna see our guys? I think we have some visitors.
yeah.
I don't know if you want them in new business or.
I didn't have any visitors on the agenda, so I don't know.
Well, we have two guys here.
Mr. Mazza.
Okay.
They don't have to be on the agenda.
How do we wanna handle it?
I don't care. I mean,
Be new or old business.
I mean, I don't recall us having anything.
Blanche Tablets. They're the middle. Yeah. Yeah. It would. I want to talk about the prices.
well, then
Okay.
with the,
Okay. So we'll have that discussion, and then if there's comments from the public, we'll invite them up, to speak as well. So, why don't we go through,
Okay. Old business. Do you want to come up, Emily, and
Yeah, sure.
talk us through our? So I'll give everybody a recap. Kay McCartney was hired by our previous director and the engineering department to study the tap-in fees for water and wastewater. We realized they had not been updated. That the capacity fee part of that had not been updated at least since 2008, and that we were out of sync with the rest of municipalities. So K.E. McCartney looked at the fees three different ways. We have the buy-in method. What was the second one?
Hybrid and,
Incremental.
yeah,
marginal incremental.
marginal incremental.
Marginal incremental. That's
Sorry.
been a long time since the accounting class, right? So we looked at all those. I think they've given a couple presentations. I think this group, maybe including the mayor, felt that the buy-in method of 5,000 each
Yeah.
for the capacity fee was a little bit on the high side, and that the marginal incremental was challenging because at the wastewater plant it's based on depreciated assets. So the majority of our wastewater assets are depreciated nearly to zero. So you're buying in on something that's already used up, and that doesn't really get us to where growth is helping to pay for the components of the system that have to be expanded. It didn't really, the math in that method didn't work. So what Emily has put together here, working with Brad and other folks, is a 3,000 capacity fee each side, and then if you want to talk about the other factors that you worked on.
Yeah, so the tap fees in general have really three main factors. You have your material costs, and then your application fee, and then that capacity fee, which is what Mark analyzed for us. We would also like to adjust the application fee today. It previously was $40. That hasn't been updated since 2018. My recommendation for you guys would be $75. That is consistent with stormwater, so that would keep all our application fees for our utilities at $75. We know that covers our administrative costs for those items with that cost. The second aspect would be material costs. So for example, your water meter, the cost for that, the labor cost for our teams to go assist with that, and then the actual elbows, parts, pieces that go into those. Today we will just be updating a portion of those material costs. We're still waiting to get back some numbers for updated costs on things like copper. We also need to get an analysis on our labor for these projects. So today's update will just be for meters and the MXU component. So just 2 line items and a larger list of material costs. And then, of course, the actual capacity fee, which Mark analyzed for us, which 3,000 for water, potentially 3,000 for sewer.
So can I ask a question about that? You said he analyzed it, his recommendation was 5.
That was for the buy-in method.
Okay.
So if you recall, he came for 2 different presentations.
I misunderstood. I thought you meant that he recommended 5 under this method. Okay.
Sorry. He he presented his findings. It was like 5,000 plus. It was actually like 5,200-ish, in that realm for buy-in. Hybrid model, his his analysis was $3,232 for the water capacity fee, and with buy-in method for the wastewater capacity fee, he came up with, let me find it, $1,801.
You mean with the hybrid model?
Yes.
1,000.
Sorry, hybrid. The numbers I just said were hybrid.
Yes.
So those were his numbers that he provided to us for the hybrid. We would suggest a $3,000 for water. His suggestion was $1,801 for wastewater. 3,000 is a bit more than that. Maybe it's better to do 2,000. So it's a little closer to his range, but that would be up to you guys.
Yep, let me jump in and say, so those numbers are based on just the 5/8 inch
Right.
basic residential service. So as you look at the sheet, there is a multiplier factor based on the cross-sectional area of a pipe. So where your 5/8 is 3,000, a 2-inch is 24,000 because it has a substantially larger cross-sectional area, and the customer has the ability to use more water faster, and then the plant needs to have the capability to handle that. So as we put these larger meters out there, it takes more assets at the plant to back them up.
Yeah, so it's, that base of 3,000, let's say, for water, is then multiplied by our capacity factor, which is in our ordinance, our city ordinance. Lays that out for water. We use that same multiplier for our standard water fees.
Yeah.
Our
Same
monthly
thing
billing.
if you have a 1-inch meter versus a 5/8, you have a higher rate because there's a
Yeah.
multiplier on the capacity fee for maybe the general public is just in some ways you can look at it as you're buying an insurance policy, or you think about it like a co-op, you're buying a little slice of the water plant that's there, you're buying that for your future use. So it's a one-time fee to help us do projects at the plants, and then that for the accounting side of things, that money is routed to specific accounts and tracked so that it's not used just for day-to-day operations. It's used for capital improvements. So it is accounted for. That's why when you see all these fees, like the money, when we do a permit, the money does go different places.
Yeah.
So the $75 actually goes to the engineering department, where we would be paying staff and administering the paperwork, or paying for our iWork software. Then the rest of the money does go to the utility, but the meter money would go to buy meters, then the capacity goes to improvements. So it is routed in the background to the proper accounts, and Lacey and Terry do most of that now.
But Emily, it sounds like if the public looking at these sheets should keep in mind that the material costs don't have everything included, is that what I was?
So they don't have everything updated. That's the thing. We just weren't able to get all those numbers in time for today. So our next utilities commission meeting, I'll have a revision so that we can make sure that the rest of the material costs are updated and accurate, as well as labor. I would say that in 2018, when our last round of material costs were updated, there were not line items for things like the track hoe, that is used. So we want to make sure that we get those FEMA rates in there so that we are accounting for the use of our fleet as well. So we've got to add a few items in there and then just adjust the cost. Obviously, things have changed since 2018.
So it says it's effective today, but there would be additional, I just want people to know if they see this, there could be additional costs based on what you said.
Yep. But at least we've got the meter and the MXU piece updated, to help cover those costs, because they did increase substantially. About probably $50 each on average since 2018.
And then it looks like here, while we're making the recommendation or the motion to increase both water and wastewater tap fees, those actually wouldn't be effective till February 17th. Is that what I'm reading here?
That's totally up to this group.
Yeah.
I can look at Rob and Emily did a bunch of research. So you want to explain? So this board has the capability of changing wastewater
fees. The
The-
safety service director has the authority to do the water rates and tap fees. So, and city council has the authority to set the wastewater rates.
So what I think we've typed up for the commission members is there's some choices. So
Yeah.
do we want to include a grace period of 15 days for people? We could immediately update meter costs, and then the capacity fees could be rolled in 15 or 30 days later. There's a variety of ways this could be handled.
Okay.
Fair. So
I think we have a lot to think about. I know Brian had mentioned it earlier. Is there anybody from the public that wants to talk about tap fees or capacity fees or anything like that? Welcome to come up. Okay. If that changes, let me know. I guess I'll kick the discussion off here.
Well, if we're going to discuss amongst the
Yeah.
commission members, we probably need to have a motion on the floor.
Let's start
Wait,
with the first
and
page.
we can always
Amend it, yeah.
amend the motion if we decide to change some of the timing during the discussion.
do you think it makes sense to do a piecemeal?
Well, especially because the safety, I think it makes sense for purposes of figuring clarity, people going back and look at the minutes, that we would probably, the recommendation to someone to do something should be separate from
Yep.
the utility commission taking specific action itself.
And Brian, I agree. I think if we go through each change individually, let's do it that way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will make a motion to recommend to the safety service director that the permit application fee for water be raised from $40 to $75.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Further discussion. I'll kick it off here. We found pretty much across the board, not just with utility permit fees, but all of our permit fees, that we're drastically low compared to like communities. So,
And it's not even just that, it doesn't even accurately take into account the amount of work that the engineering staff and other city employees have to spend on processing these. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that's the real issue. I mean, while it's good to, while it's a good check to see what other communities are doing, it really needs to reflect our cost so that we're not, so that when people are asking for individual work, that they pay for that rather than spreading it out amongst everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the aspect, okay, so we get a permit in the door, it goes into iWorks, and, you know, there's reviews, we need to make sure there's a water line there. Sometimes there's a pre-tap for folks, so sometimes we have to go out in the field. Sometimes we have to take the crew with us to go find these pre-taps. Once it's approved, those permits are permanently archived in engineering. They're also sent to the billing office. If someone in the future, you know, we have real estate agents, you know, making sure that this is a legal tap, or there's a lot of records requests. When people are replacing lines, they want a copy of these permits. So these records are then kept forever by the engineering department, also by the billing office. So there's a records management aspect. There's labor associated with, you know, maintaining these records. The iWork system is a lot more efficient. It saves labor, but it's also expensive. I think we pay about $10,000 a year for that. That's obviously manages most all the city permits. So this is a small, water is a piece of that, but it, you know, it saves labor, but it in essence also costs to have a nice software system.
Any more discussion on the permit fee? Okay. Call the roll.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
I would make a motion that the utility commission raise the sanitary permit fee from $40 to $75.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation on this one? I think it's pretty similar. Okay. Go ahead and call the roll, Maureen.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Meter cost?
All right. We'll make a motion that utility commission recommend to the safety service director that the cost of the meters and MXUs be updated to the cost shown on the draft February 2nd, 2023 rate sheet for water.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion on this? I think we heard from Emily that we're basically, and I remember this bid, it just went out at the end of last year, so basically taking our costs for materials for meters right now and updating that. As she explained, I expect that next meeting we'll have some updates on some additional labor and pipe
Copper.
costs, things like that.
Yeah, copper.
Copper.
Definitely. And
We
other
can-
pieces and parts, and then we'll also come with some updates to the sanitary materials cost as well. We don't have that today, but it will be coming for next time.
So, question, is there a way to make this set at current cost, so you're
Well,
not constantly going back and
Actually,
forth?
you know, I was
Think
I was
that's
just
just
thinking about that
knowledge.
as you talked about that, because I was
Specifically
thinking
copper. Yeah.
about the copper, because I'm sure that the copper piping changes almost daily,
Yeah,
and so
Aaron's been
I
on
hate to
that.
see it set at one cost and,
yeah,
And
and we
come
may
back
want to
before that.
just say that we will charge you for these items that we have to go purchase, whatever the cost is, and I don't know if we wanted to add,
actual cost of material.
yeah,
and
the actual
labor.
cost of materials, you know, something along those lines. We can think about maybe doing that, and we can then just publish a list saying this is what it is and this is what we're going to do.
I think for meters, so since we're on the topic of meters, meters is pretty easy because
Yeah.
it's a separate line item. We did the bid. To separate, so the other line, we have a different line for the materials. What we have done in the past is we've taken a standard length of pipe and a standard amount of work. Now, your house is on the side of the street of the water line, so then you would be paying a little bit extra because you're not having to cross the road with the water line.
But
And
if you've got meters right now, you're eventually gonna have to buy more and that cost is gonna change.
Right.
Why not set the just the actual cost.
Well, I'm
They'll
saying
have
as
to keep coming back.
I think we should do the meter right now, because in this spreadsheet, meters and water line materials are separate. Because the reason they're separate, like for sleigh ball, they provide, the developer is doing everything except installing the meter in the MXU. So we have, in a development scenario, you would use the top part of the sheet where the developer is not asking our staff to come run the service line and set the meter pit and the parts. So that's why there's a separate fee. So specific to meters, I would say we want to pass this today. We could, for the next round, we could look at, and I'll look at Brad with the new work order system, we can track the materials used and the labor a lot better. So we could look at doing, instead of just an average rate, we could do an actual cost.
I think that what I'd like to do, I think that passing this, because we know these fixed costs, because we just bid them
have a
out.
bid.
But for going forward, I think that we can work up language to do exactly what you were suggesting, that we'll do it by
Well, I don't know
the
that
actual
language,
costs. And
I don't know that we can't use the actual cost here. Yes, we know the numbers. We just say.
yeah, I just want to think through what that would look like to make sure that we don't.
So we could change that next meeting.
Yes.
The reason it's not a big deal on this, Tammy, is we have a 2-year bid, so I know that those are the meter fees for the next 2 years. So.
For the fittings too. I mean, I know that's probably a smaller cost, but just to cover the city.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, let's think through how the rules
Yeah.
are. I think we can pass this today if the commission wants. But I like going to an actual cost. Then we can just update our tables. We don't have to
Yes.
discuss this. I think every commission would agree that the cost of materials should be borne by the customer. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Got a little bit of discussion. Any more discussion on setting the meter costs, right? Understanding that we may come back with an actual cost motion next meeting, but yeah. All right, call the roll.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You want to go to water?
Sure.
Okay. I would make a motion that the utility commission recommend to the safety service director a change in capacity fee for the basic 5/8 meter from $550 to $3,000. We would exempt any project that the city has in design for construction, and any project that has a permit in the iWorks by the 17th of February 2023 at midnight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Discussion on this. So it sounds like raising to 3,000, giving people 15 days to get a permit under the current costs. And I understand the reason for Brian's currently built out city projects, because those CDBG figures have already been determined.
Yeah, so for the CDBG, we had to give the state and the federal government our rates so they could estimate, because if the person income qualifies, these fees are paid by the grant for each person that income qualifies up to the maximum amount. So if we change this, it would put a burden back on the customer, and we've had a lot of public meetings and a lot of discussion. That I think it's just fair to grandfather those projects in. Additionally, we have several things that are, we have people who have permits and iWorks that are in review, and we would, grant them the.
Yeah, we don't want to change the rules of the road after they've already applied.
Like Rockford, for example, they've turned in their permits, I think at the end or middle of November, and we've been with the change in director, it's been a little difficult to get those reviews done. So thanks that Aaron's here, and we're trying to get everybody caught up so we can get through some backlog in our review. So we don't want to be unfair to people who are waiting on us to get the reviews done.
I'll say is I think I'm supportive of this change. I think the hybrid model takes a measured approach to the increase. You know, the other method, it was a drastic increase. This kind of cuts it down the middle. Not really down the middle. I think it's still closer to the whatever buy-in method than the other one. But any thoughts, comments? Okay. There's nothing else. I guess we'll call the roll.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
All right. So I will make a motion that the Utility Commission change the capacity fee for wastewater from $825 to $2,000, effective with the same terms of the last discussion. So that would take effect February 17th at midnight, and it would also exclude any project that is in design by the city or construction, and any project that currently has a permit in the iWorks system, by February 17th, midnight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the wastewater capacity fee.
I was gonna go with the 2,000. So traditionally, we have wanted to reduce the barrier for people to connect to wastewater. If they don't, they're probably, we end up with a health situation. So, and I think when we look at Mark's numbers, we're pretty close to the 2,000 is a reasonable number. Hybrid model, the 3,000 is probably a little bit high, but we still have a major need for infrastructure at the wastewater plant.
And the one thing I think it's important for the public to understand is these are all for new customers, new construction, things like that. So part of the reason we set the capacity fees is so that the customers in the system now aren't carrying the burden of more customers. Any more discussion? Okay. Call the roll on that one.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Zick?
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. I know we've been here a while. I did want to have one brief discussion to loop Ms. Woods in, depending on whether we have a recommendation today or not. I'll also be meeting with Mr. Francis later today. Council has had to see staffing legislation over and over again, and I do want to apologize for that. I think we have one last change that Brad and Aaron and I are all on board with. I'll ask them to chime in. If things have changed, perfectly fine. Likely next council meeting, we'll ask council to abolish a utility technician position and a half-time or a part-time office technician, and change that into a fourth office technician. So they're really going from 3.5 support specialists to 4, but we're giving up about a position and a half for that. It's a savings of about $23,000 annually, but I think what it's going to do is help the billing office really become more efficient. When talking to Aaron and Brad, right now our distribution and collection team is 9, which is kind of a weird number. And the way they're currently organizing is to have a crew chief and 3 workers, to have 2 crews to go out and do work on. But do you guys want to talk about that? Are we still kind of heading in that direction? What are your guys' thoughts?
We won't be able to hear you that far back.
Yeah, I still think that that's the best course of action. We need to kind of spread out some of the tasks in the office. We've had software changes. We haven't had a lot of management updates to match those. So we really need to put some more people at some of those tasks so that we can
And part of Brad's position is obviously managing the staff, but also assuming some administrative responsibilities across the utility when it comes to maybe reporting and things like that. And so right now he has to do a few things like payroll and things like that we prefer the staff handle. And so another part of the proposal we'll be making to council, if this commission recommends it, is also taking our current level 1 support specialists up to a level 2. The difference in that is really processing purchase orders, doing payroll. That way the entire staff will begin learning those processes. In the past it was, only one person learned payroll and that kind of stuff. So we really think with the savings, it makes the most sense. But
Yeah, when we have some staffing flexibility, we have somebody off from work for a long period of time, we don't have that redundancy, because we've built that in a way where you get paid a little bit more to do certain tasks, right? So when we take somebody out, those tasks aren't really understood. So we struggle to try to keep up with that task while that person's out of the office. So this plan is to try to do some more redundant training and get everybody up to speed so that everybody kind of knows how to do all of the processes, so that if we do have an issue like that again, we can handle everything without major setbacks.
Well, and one other thing on the savings side, this last fall we were doing a lot of triage and things, and it came to the attention that because of absentees and this sort of silo approach, we've been paying a lot of late fees as a utility. Somebody was off sick and the bills missed by a few days getting the bills paid, we ended up racking up substantial late fees. So one of the things that maybe the general public doesn't know is the billing office also processes most all the purchase orders for the entire utility. None of the plants, none of the other departments have any administrative staff to process purchase orders. So it all goes through. Basically what we found out was one person in the billing office. That person takes a sick day and we miss something, we're paying late fees. So this is, I think Brad has really jumped in, done a fantastic job of understanding the nuts and bolts of what's going on and listening and understanding what's wrong, and starting to get some redundancy. In my office, I have 3 people that can do that out of 6. So if somebody takes a day off, we still pay our bills.
I would note that the position that's being eliminated is the one that Brad had.
Yes.
And we couldn't eliminate it until after he was in the new position.
So again, Brad had been doing, other duties besides just distribution collection. He'd been heavily involved in our IT stuff and the rollout of the work order system. So, and then Brad was also working in engineering 1 day a week. So that position has been light, I don't know, for a while.
Right, and now that I've moved into the billing office, we're ultimately taking on those tasks as well, which are
Yep.
tasks.
Yep.
Again, it definitely comes down to building the redundancy through the whole utility. If somebody's not there, somebody else steps in.
So, I guess I should have done this at first. I'll make a motion that we abolish 1 public utility technician and 1/2 of a customer support specialist, and then raise our current full-time customer support specialist to support specialist 2 to city council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. More discussion on this.
So we're eliminating the part-time person, but we're not adding. Are we adding a person to the billing office?
I need to amend my motion.
I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I messed my motion.
Say friendly amendment. How about that?
I motion that we amend my original motion to add, also recommending a customer support specialist 1 be added to the billing office.
I'll second the amendment.
All right, let's do this. All in favor, or can you do a roll on the amendment?
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Okay. Now back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion on that? I apologize. These staffing legislations are extraordinarily complicated.
That's the same.
Yes.
About 23, between 23 and 24. I should have sent it out earlier. I'll send everybody the spreadsheet that I worked up with all the changes. Yeah.
Well, it's just good to get all the numbers out in front of everybody. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
And okay. Any more?
No, I think it's good. I would say, just for everybody, I don't know that I think that I think we want to give Aaron a fair shot at evaluating the overall utility, and there may be some later in the year, there may be some recommendations on staffing. Obviously, we have not filled the assistant or the wastewater superintendent. So as we get the top cell of management, there may be some other recommendations as those organizations filter down, but nothing for a while.
All right. Call the roll.
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Any more business? Yep.
Yeah, I just wanna recommend to the, to the city and to city council that maybe press upon city council members over the next year that all of them visit, I think you visit, so, right, water,
Several
wastewater,
times, yeah.
But I don't think all the council members have.
Probably not the newer ones.
So I would recommend that all of the council members, maybe even those that have been in the past years, that they make a revisit to the water and wastewater treatment plants over the next year, set a goal maybe. And also that the city have a public open house, maybe schedule a rain date, plan one and then schedule a rain date in case the weather's really bad. To invite the public in, since obviously the city making an attempt to work towards improving the maintenance of the facilities and upgrading the facilities that are greatly needed. It would be a good idea that the public has had opportunity to visit, personally see what needs to be done, that work. Because I know when you visit and you actually see what's going on there, you're like, crap, that crap needs to be cleaned up, sorry.
You're okay.
But there's stuff that needs to get done. And I think that would also help the city and some of the city council members and the community understand the necessity to move forward quickly on some of the stuff to make sure that we do have cost savings. Because I still think, like with our latest thing with the clarifier, we spent an extra $82,000 we didn't need to spend. I think with better public education, with the city council and the public, that people would understand that maybe a little better. Because I know there's a lot of things that get fixed. And to me, water and wastewater are the two primary functions of government when you have a community. You need to provide those people expect it. So I think that's wise forward, I think. Educate.
Yeah, I like the idea of the open house too, so we can work on that for this spring. I think would be good. Cool. Any other business for today? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Now we did some work, so we can do a lot more work.
Yeah.
Right, Emily? Look at Emily.